Hello, I'm Whitney McMahon, and today I am giving a presentation on Jacob Kounin and his theory for my Behavior Management Theorist assignment for EDU 520, Planning for Instruction, which is a graduate course at Western Kentucky University. Jacob Kounin was an education researcher who developed the preventative discipline theory, which we now largely refer to today as classroom management. Classroom management are those practices that we use to curtail and prevent disruptive behaviors in the classroom. So let's take a look at what an image of classroom management looks like. Oh no, how did a raccoon get in the classroom? Raccoon in the classroom? And it's a raccoon, it's in there with all the other well-behaved raccoon students. Get it? It's like coon in the classroom, like Jacob Kounin. Yeah, I tried. So here is a picture of the Jacob Kounin, who is not a raccoon in the classroom. And so today we're going to go ahead and look at who was Jacob Kounin and what drove him to his research and his theory. What is the preventative discipline theory and how is it used in our present day classroom? And are there any benefits and criticisms of the preventative discipline theory? Okay, so let's start with who was Kounin and what drove him to do this research and this theory? Well, Jacob Kounin was an American educational psychologist who was also a researcher. He became interested and studied classroom management techniques in the 1950s. Kounin's classroom management research is still considered today to be some of the most important research, and it is the basis of what we currently refer to as classroom management practices. Kounin was born on January 17, 1912, in Cleveland, Ohio. At age 27, he graduated from Iowa State University with his PhD in educational psychology. At age 34, Kounin began working as an educational psychologist at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. While working at the Wayne State University, Kounin had the opportunity to research classroom settings, and he became very interested in student behaviors within the classes that he taught. These observations ultimately led to him researching, which also led eventually to him publishing his findings and theories in 1970 with one of his books entitled Discipline and Group Management in Classrooms. Kounin died at the age of 83 on October 7, 1995 in Palm Beach, Florida. So what drove him to his research and his theory? What was the story behind it? Kounin's interest in classroom management began when he publicly reprimanded a college student during a lecture that he was giving. And no, this is not an actual picture of him giving a lecture, but it is a picture of college lecture hall in the 1950s. During this lecture, Kounin noticed a student was reading a newspaper in the back row of his class. He reprimanded the student, who immediately stopped reading the newspaper and began to focus on the lecture. Kounin also noticed that the other students in the class also became more attentive. After Kounin addressed the first student's lack of attention, He observed how his reprimanding of the one student affected the actions of the other students in the class. Kounin observed when he stated those behavioral expectations to put away the newspaper and focus, that the other students in the class also adjusted their behaviors to really focus as well. This incident sparked Kounin's research. He and his colleagues, through many years of direct observational research among different grade levels, developed the theory that teachers could influence student behavior by using techniques that prevented negative behaviors before they started. He asserted that a teacher can best manage student behavior proactively rather than reactively. From his research, Kounin summarized that good classroom management is based on the behavior of teachers, not the behavior of students. So what is the preventative discipline theory, and how is it used in the classroom? Kounin's preventative discipline theory is centered around proactive classroom management. Some of the key principles within his theory are with-itness, ripple effect, overlapping, effective transitions, and group focus. With-itness refers to the teacher's awareness in the classroom. This is one of Kounin's main points in his research that he discovered. Teachers are aware of what is going on at all times in the classroom. For a teacher, this is like us having eyes in the back of your head. Teachers with-itness quickly notice negative behavior, and they use their body language to indicate that they have observed the behavior. Teachers using with-itness use their body language to non-verbally communicate with those students, such as they will make eye contact with a student to address minor misbehavior, moving closer to students who are not listening, and arranging the classroom so students are always within eyesight. The ripple effect is when one student and teacher interaction affects the rest of the classroom, and it can affect it either positively or negatively. It's like what Kounin observed when he asked his student to put away the newspaper and pay attention. The other students also followed suit in paying attention as well, thus called the ripple effect. For a positive effect with the ripple effect, you want to state the misbehavior, reasons for the correction, and then the other students will be likely to follow suit. For example, a teacher telling a student to stop talking during lesson is more likely to have other students remain quiet than a teacher who simply glares or ignores the behavior. A negative effect of the ripple effect is when a teacher's correction is too severe or unclear as to why the correction is even happening. It can negatively impact the entire class. For example, that same teacher that's not addressing the talking student, it allows the other students to think that it's okay to talk as well, or that maybe the rules really aren't to be followed. In overlapping, it is referring to a teacher's ability to basically multitask, whether it is being more aware of what's going on in the classroom and of students' behaviors while teaching a lesson or helping a student individually. Or it's also the timing and pacing are important in the classroom. And when teachers allow a lapse in activity or that awareness, students are more likely to take that time, that lapse, and to lose focus or engage in some other type of negative behavior or disruptive behavior, such as talking, throwing pens, things like that. So being able to move forward and continue on, and also still having that awareness in the classroom, the with-itness as well, to help. Next, we have effective transitions. This is when we keep lessons moving while avoiding abrupt changes. Teachers affect smooth transitions if they use a consistent signal to get students' attention, provide clear directions for the next activity, and prepare students for the shift. We do this using call and responses, raising hands to have quietness in the class. We make sure we really try to give those explicitly clear directions and let them know that the transition is coming up. In group focus, the idea is for teachers to keep the whole class involved and interested. Therefore, if all the students are engaged and they're interested in the lesson, then they're less likely to have any of those gap times, any of those downtimes in order to engage in disruptive behaviors. Teachers can use group focus by asking questions about the lesson. This can look like cold calling, for example, where teachers may ask questions to random students so that the students don't know if they're going to be the ones that are going to be called on next, and then this means that they're more likely to pay attention so they can be prepared to answer. Also, not allowing students to not give an answer is another way with the highly effective questioning discourse strategy. Teachers can also give out points for answering questions to encourage participation as well, like in a rewards type scenario. And there we have Kounin's key principles to preventative discipline. Now let's take a look at the benefits and the criticisms of Kounin's theory. Some of the benefits include that it fosters a sense of safety through known expectations within the classroom. When students know what's expected of them, it provides safety and security so then they know how they can move forward and what to expect next. It also promotes a positive classroom culture. If everybody is having to do the same, being held to the same accountability and having the same expectations, and it is in a positive environment, then it's going to promote a positive classroom culture. And it also strengthens the students' ability to manage their own behavior. Some of the criticisms include that classroom management is basically just another form of control, and it's a way to have students obey the rules, but it's not really addressing the students' underlying needs below these disruptive behaviors. Basically, it's a way of sugarcoating the same ways we try to get these expectations many decades ago. And that the techniques are also only as effective as the teacher's ability to implement them. If the teacher is not effective, you're not going to have good classroom management. And this is not necessarily, this is not a slight on teachers at all, because as teachers, we might not be fully trained to implement or even know how to implement the strategies effectively, or when they could be used best, and in what practices to use them in. All right, and there we are. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation tonight. I hope that it was helpful and informative and maybe gave you some good things to think about and also to implement in the classroom. So thank you again. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Be well.